Hey everybody, I'm Melanie from Calm Tie Dyes. Today's video is a 16-point mandala on a 50-inch by 50-inch tapestry. I was going for a kaleidoscope look and I think that I succeeded, so I'm excited to share it with all of you. If you have any questions, please feel free to leave them in the comments and I will do my best to answer them. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoy the video. Let's get started. All right, so 16-point mandala is what we're going for today. First step is to fold this in quarters. This is a 50-inch by 50-inch piece of Kona cotton. It has been soaked in soda ash, spun out in the washing machine, and hung to dry. So it is all ready to go. Here is your corner where the center of the mandala is going to be. So the first step is to bring one corner down, and when you do that you want to give yourself just a little bit of space here, because as you fold it, it's going to move a little bit and shift a little bit. So there's the first fold. Fold number two. So for an 8-point mandala, you would stop here, flip it over, fold the other side the same way. But we're going for 16 points today. So one more fold here. Music today is Kenny Wayne Shepherd, live in Chicago. I'm a big blues fan, so you guys will probably hear blues quite often in my videos. All right, so once we get this side folded, I'm going to take some of these binder clips here and I am just going to clip this. Just in a couple of spots, maybe 3 spots, so that when I flip it over, we don't lose our symmetry here. And we're going to flip it over. Clips come in super handy for that reason right there. All right, so now we're gonna fold this side the same way we folded the other side. Fold it 3 times. Make sure there's no big creases in this. There's going to be little wrinkles here and there, but the big creases is what we're trying to avoid. Now that I've got this folded, I'm going to clip it again down here. And keep that clip in place till we get the dream catcher part of this done. You know, it's always good when you're doing this to go back in, check your folds and adjust them if you need to, because they will move around. People use all sorts of stuff to hold their pleats in place, but I have found that these binder clips work great as long as they're big enough. So for a 16-point mandala, on one side of this fabric, you're going to have 2 folds, 2 big folds. On the other side, you're gonna have 7 folds. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Now this is what you want to keep in mind when you're folding these up. The side with 2 folds is going to be your offsets. The side with multiple folds are going to be your main points on your mandala. So if you think about a clock with a 16-point mandala, you've got the 12 and the 6, the 3 and the 9, and then you've got some diagonals in between those. Those main points on the mandala are where the multiple folds are. The offsets that are in between those are the 2 folds. So just something to keep in mind as you're tying this up. You want to know what your main points are going to be versus what your offsets are going to be. You want to try and keep your point as folded as possible. Down at the very end, it's going to come undone a little bit, but that's okay. So the first step is the dream catcher. And the dream catcher is something that you can do. It just adds kind of a cool focal point in the center. I like the dream catcher. I think it's a cool way to put some cool detail into your design. Take my slip knot and my sinew. I'm going to put it down here, fairly close to the edge. And I'm going to pull it tight. I'm gonna bring this down. Hopefully I'm in the camera here. So I'm gonna get this on here. I'm gonna pull it. My slip knot is gonna try to come undone, but I've tied a little knot in this slack so it won't come all the way off. I'm pinching this as hard as I can and pulling. I'm gonna wrap this a couple of times. I'm gonna press down and pull. And that's gonna give me a nice tight tie there. So the next step in the dream catcher is just to go down here at an angle and back up. And the angle can be as close or as far away as you want. That's just going to determine the design. So if you don't pinch it, if you don't put some pressure on it, it will try to slip up towards the next tie. So I'm gonna wrap it a couple of times here. So you see the angle there? I'm gonna try to keep that angle, but if you don't hold on to that, it slips right up. So that's what we're trying to do here, is keep a little bit of an angle. And some days I get really lucky with the sinew and it just works for me, and some days it fights and it feels like today it's going to fight. Fun times, guys, fun times. People think that tie-dye is just, you know, tying something up and throwing some dye on it, but sometimes, depending on what you're folding and tying, there is a process, and it's not always easy. There we go. Now we got what I've been trying to get here for the last 5 minutes. We got a nice start to our dream catcher. You can see that. Now we go the other way. And again, if you put some weight into it, you get a nice tight tie there. I usually just wrap it 2 or 3 times. The less you wrap it, the thinner your lines are going to be. So it just kind of depends on what kind of lines you want. More wraps mean thicker lines. You'll see here, got the little triangle started. It's a good start to our dream catcher. So I'm just going to get the dream catcher finished up here, and then we'll get on to tying the main part of the mandala. Dream catcher is done. Now we're going to start tying up the mandala part itself. So the first step is the first point on the mandala. And we want that to be kind of sharp, good angle. A lot of people will draw out their design. I'm not going to do that today. I'm just going to kind of wing it because I have an idea in my mind of what I want it to be like. Once we get up here, we'll be able to do some accordion folding, but down here it's kind of tricky to do that. If you can get a good accordion fold, you'll have a zigzag where the multiple folds are, and then you just tie up that zigzag. If you don't accordion fold it and you just kind of do this, the zigzag almost happens by itself. So instead of accordion folding this, I'm just going to do this. So this is our first point on the mandala. Now we're going to go down here and do our first offset. So same thing, we're going to pull. You want these ties to stay nice and close to each other. That's what's going to give you your nice design. The tighter you pull the sinew, the better your lines are going to be. The more defined your lines are going to be. So we've got our first point and our first offset. And we're going to go down here and do our second point. Okay, second point is done. Again, we're keeping these ties nice and close to each other. Second offset. You want to check the back side. Make sure that you're not pinching any fabric. Make sure that your sinew is lining up. Oh, haha. And if you pull too hard, your sinew will break. That's what just happened here. And we just have to start another slip knot here. Okay. Okay. So we've got this started. We're basically just going to fold it this way all the way up through here, and then I will be back to show you what the next step is. So, after many sinew breaks, look at all these little pieces of sinew. That'll tell you how many times my sinew broke. I've got this tied up all the way up to the point where the shortest piece of fabric in the fold is. So this is the point where I've always gotten to. This is kind of how I've always tied up my mandalas. But I kind of want to try something different with this one. I want to get some more design in it, and I have no idea if this is going to work out good, like if it's going to look really good. when I unfold it tomorrow. It's just something that I want to try. We're just calling it the Kaleidoscope experiment. I'll figure out what I'm going to do with this later, but for each one of these offsets and these main points, I'm going to split it in half, and I'm going to do that with the sinew. So I'm going to start, this is the first point off of the dream catcher, so I'm going to skip that one, and I'm going to do the first one right here. And all I'm going to do is vertical lines, or vertical ties rather. I'm just going to tie all of these in half. And I'm just going to wrap them a couple of times and pull it tight. That first one is going to want to slip a lot because it's the beginning of the sinew. So this is where having some strength in your hands comes in really helpful. And I did not want the sinew to break there. So what I'm going to do is tie this up, like I said, in a vertical tie on each one of the points in the offsets. So I'm going to do that, and then we will be back to show you the final steps. All right, guys, we are all tied up. I've just scrunched this up and tied it with some kite string. And here is our mandala. Again, dream catcher. And then first point is here. And then the first offset, second point, second offset. All of them all the way up through here. We're gonna get some dye ready, mixed up. And we're gonna dye this and see how it comes out. So yeah, let's get that done. All right, so the dye has been applied to the tapestry. I did not record that process because it took forever. I spent about 2 hours mixing dyes and applying them to the tapestry. So I did a rainbow sequence. We did get a little bit of color blending, but hopefully it'll still look really cool when we rinse it out. So I did blue, green, yellow, orange, red, pink, and purple. And then I repeated that 2 more times. And then up at the end where it's scrunched, I just randomly applied dye, just kind of squirted it here and there with no rhyme or reason whatsoever. We're gonna let this batch for 24 hours and then we'll rinse it out. So we'll be back to do that. Here it is, guys. My extreme kaleidoscope experiment. I have no idea what this is gonna look like. So it's official. I have hit 100 followers on Facebook, which means it is time for me to give away a tapestry. So stay tuned for that. Details on that will be coming very soon. So again, this was a 16-point mandala. My plan was to lay the dye down a little bit differently than it actually happened. That's okay, because there are no mistakes in tie-dye. Just happy little accidents. I used a rainbow sequence of dyes on this. 2 shades of blue, 2 shades of green, 2 shades of yellow, red, orange, pink, purple. My dog is down here. And the sinew is hitting her in the head. And she's like, what? What is it, puppy? This is fun, right? Like I said in my video when I was tying this up, a lot of people think that tie-dye is just fold something up, put some rubber bands on it, put some dye on it, and boom. It's not always the case. Sometimes it's a little more complicated than that. Oh my gosh, we're so close. Okay, now I'm getting excited because I think this is gonna look really cool. So I do anticipate that there's gonna be quite a bit of white in this because I just don't think that the dye got all the way down into the fabric. But I'm hoping that it still looks really cool, psychedelic and groovy. And all those words that are used to describe tie-dye. We ready? Our extreme kaleidoscope. Ooh, it's kind of ripply and cool.
It's like hot peppers and stuff.
Like hot peppers.
Yeah, some of the shapes.
It's
like glow sticks.
very colorful.
It's very, very colorful.
Okay, I'm gonna hold it up here so my husband can do his panning thing that he does. As usual, this is darker than it's going to be in the end. We're going to rinse it out some more, and we're going to wash it and dry it and iron it. Then there will be a picture of it at the end of the video. This is pretty cool. I like it. It's different. It's interesting. I'm looking forward to seeing it once it's all washed and dried. Till next time, guys. Have a great day. Bye.